Let's continue.
California is an island. Not literally, of course, but
let's talk about why my state is absolutely fucking dog shit. This is by Wendover Productions. More like I'm bending over to the fucking Californian authorities on a daily fucking basis as they milk me dry of my tax dollars, which I have no problem fucking giving them. But I do hope that I get something in fucking return, and that's not, you know, a new armored personnel carrier for the Los Angeles Police Department, but instead to fix the fucking potholes. Instead, to make sure that there is adequate housing availabilities for people who are getting priced out of the housing market. But of course, that is magic la la land. Why would that ever happen? Fix the fucking roads, man. Pay teachers more. All you're getting is climate collapse and armed right-wing militias headed up by Orange County Nazi grandparents. I hate that.
Geography and history has subjected the state to the same pressures and influences that make actual islands so insular. Towering mountains separate the bulk of the state from its neighbors, but America's largest desert places hundreds of miles of harsh, sparsely populated landscape between it and the more populated states farther east. Conversely, the largest, richest, and most influential cities in California all sit on the coast: San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. This is no coincidence. Granted statehood in 1850, California began its interaction with the rest of the nation by ocean. It did not border any other state. The next nearest was Texas. The interior was considered hostile, dangerous wilderness, but also just fundamentally lacked roads, so steamships would leave from the East Coast, snake through the Caribbean, and drop off passengers in Panama. There, travelers would cross the country by foot and horse and boat to get to Panama City, where they'd wait for another steamship to bring them to California. At best a 30 or 40-day trip, but incredibly, the fastest way to get from one half of America to the other. This disconnect meant California initially operated more like a colony, especially considering that until telegraph lines spanned the country a decade later, this weeks-long trip was also the fastest way to get information from coast to coast. It wasn't until the Transcontinental Railroad was completed in 1869 that the state was truly, reliably connected to the rest of the country by land, giving California 2 foundational decades to define its identity in isolation. This legacy persists. The disconnect exhibits in small ways that stack up into a meaningful sum. For example, most of the rest of the country is linked by a network.
Honestly, if you go live anywhere in the world, where'd you go live? Would you say Tokyo? Easy.
Of oil pipelines, allowing for cheap and efficient transport of the resource.
Also, not really though, because I don't speak Japanese and it's really fucking annoying.
From well to refinery to pump. California is different. With those towering mountains and desolate deserts separating it from the east, the economics never worked out to extend a pipeline to the state. Therefore, California largely buys crude oil from foreign countries, imports it on enormous tanker ships, and refines it locally, which, in addition to the state's strict environmental regulations, explains the higher prices typically seen at their pumps. California even has a small degree of disconnect to the rest of the American road network. It's the only state that requires all travelers to pass through any sort of border formality.
Is Tokyo really that much better than Amsterdam? Yes. Tokyo is Amsterdam with more character. Significantly more character in the way that I like it. I love Amsterdam. I think Amsterdam is beautiful. Better than Vienna? I love Vienna. Vienna, another beautiful city. One of the best, in my opinion. But yeah, Tokyo, yes. But 0% the weed legality? Bitch, I don't give a fuck. I don't smoke weed.
When driving in. It's not immigration per se, rather an agricultural inspection to check for invasive species, but the point is not that these checks themselves significantly separate the state from the rest. More so, the fact that California is able to isolate and protect itself from pests prevalent in the rest of the country with any degree of success demonstrates just how naturally disconnected it is. The only state to have a similarly extensive agricultural inspection system is Hawaii, made up of literal islands. But the reason California can be so isolated is because it's really absurdly filthy rich. The state's center, if defined by wealth concentration, is here, Silicon Valley. It'd be easy to assume the area's riches are overstated, but the numbers offer a quick counterpoint. Santa Clara, San Mateo, and San Francisco, the three counties that encompass the core of Silicon Valley, have a collective GDP of 700.
Hello, when people say, hell yeah, Bay Area represent. My friend, that is the reason why you can't live there. You know what I mean? Like that. Like those guys are taking most of the profits.
And $25 billion. This is closest to that of Poland, the 21st largest nation in the world, home to 38 million people.
Common Polish L.
The uninitiated might assume that San Francisco and Silicon Valley are more or less
literally 3 counties worth of revenue, dude. That's crazy. Not even the whole state. 3 counties worth. Kurwa.
one and the same. Sure, San Francisco has a big tech scene, but the major headquarters are distributed across the towns and cities to the south of it. Google is in Mountain View, Apple is in Cupertino, Netflix is in Los Gatos. What this means is that these titans of tech, some of the largest companies in the world, are headquartered in some rather small cities, 82,000, 60,000, and 34,000 residents respectively. Therefore, they're regulated by tiny, hyper-competitive local governments. In fact, San Francisco, the city you know best, is not even the largest city in the San Francisco Bay Area. San Jose has 983,000 residents to San Francisco's 815,000 because the entire area is just subdivided into a huge number of smaller cities and towns, which is a bit of a trend. Los Angeles County, encompassing most, but not even all of the metro area, is composed of 88 different cities plus unincorporated areas. Across both of the state's
one major problem with California or even LA County is that it's just so big. Like, it is so insanely vast. And the 88 cities that they're referencing are like kind of far from each other. Like, it's just built like shit, really. That's it. I don't know how else to describe it. It is built like fucking dog shit. Does that make sense?
Largest urbanized masses, what functions like one city operates as dozens, even hundreds, leaving few comprehensive, overarching bodies to align incentives. Zoomed in, considering the odd relationship and power dynamics of neighboring communities, or zoomed out, considering the state's historical and contemporary isolation, California.
Texas is like that too. There are like 7 cities with over 100K people just in Dallas, Fort Worth. Yeah. You know what? That's not even wrong. They urban sprawled because they could, but no one ever stopped to ask if they should. Well, it's one of the issues with like modern developments. You know what I mean? Especially in a place like America. If you go back, I can't believe I'm saying this and people will probably fucking yell at me, but if you go back to city planning at a time and like during monarchies, they're literally better. The only reason why you have cities like London or you have cities in Europe is because the Romans built them. Okay? I'm not even kidding. Like a lot of the development built back then that people basically used the skeletons of and built on top of, were able to build we're able to basically build city planning in a way that certainly still reflected class positions, right? And that wasn't great, but it was still, it was a building that you could inevitably turn into housing for as many people as possible, as they did in places like in places like London out of necessity. Whereas, in America, we fucking build shit because we can, and we build shit in a way that in a way that best suits the interests of like suburbanite white people that puts them in proximity, like as further proximity as possible to black people. Really fucking ugly, gross, cookie cutter. It's partially true after World War II, all those European cities that were bombed the shit changed the doctrine American ways of car infrastructure and parking, like The Hague, but reversed it. And now it's not a hellscape. We urban planned around cars early on, and now there are too many cars on the road. 100%. 100%. Oh. Small countries are forced to value their land different and densify. USA has plenty of land to sprawl and no government planning to prioritize good land use.
Is as unique a state there is. Unique
because European cities were built without cars. You know, that's what I'm saying. They didn't design their shit around cars and instead built it around the fact that most people would be walking. America was founded so much later, and we took cars into consideration. I have a master's degree in planning. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said there is. No, I agree with you 100%. You are 100% correct. And even in places where we did build cities for walkability in mind, we literally fucking ripped them apart so we could basically long dick the entire town with cars and infrastructure built around, or roads built around, vehicles. I agree with you. You're absolutely correct. All the wards in Houston and then the highways separating the suburbs. Yeah. I mean, listen, I saw this meme on fucking Twitter, which I thought was really sick because it's like odd to see how easily someone identifies a problem. But it was like one of those like mega highways or whatever in Texas where there's like 11 fucking, what do they call it? It like looks like not a spade. It was I think it was Texas. It was the Cat Freeway? I don't know. It's like a spaghetti freeway basically. And someone was saying it might have been fake actually. But no, it's not the one more lame bro meme. No. Someone was saying the black neighborhood that was definitely under this must have been fire. Okay? And it's such a perfect way to describe exactly the problem. I don't even know if the clover was like real or whatever, but wait, is this it? No, this isn't it. No. It was like a clover. Yes, that's the word. It so perfectly fucking describes in such few words exactly how and what purpose these kinds of interstate highways were created for. I wonder if anyone can find it. Not like the actual version of it. Same geographical size. A highway interchange in Houston. Yeah, this was the image. And underneath it, someone was like, the black neighborhood underneath this must have been fire. Or must have been lit. God damn, dude. What is it? Is this fucking Florida, dude? Is this fake? Fake. Sometimes it feels like Florida literally feels like this. I'm not even kidding. If you've ever been in like Miami-Dade, and moved beyond Miami-Dade to like, Coral Gables, you literally have seen something that unironically looks like this. It feels like this. Obviously, it's not real. This is AI art, but it just feels like this. I swear to God. AI that's Houston. I grew up there. What do you mean, dude? This is like impossible. I mean, a lot of places in America feel like this. It's by design. It's just dog shit. I mean, look at this. This is real. This is real. This is a real highway interchange in Houston. Like, yeah, people say stuff is ugly, but it really impresses me when I go through them. Like, humanity is able to make stuff like this so monumental, and people just go through it, everyday genius. No, I love infrastructure. Okay, when Marat was like, "Bro, let's go to the fucking mountains, do some off-roading." One of the things I loved was not like necessarily the trees or anything like that, but the water purification centers and also those fat ass fucking beams that they put on top of mountains so we can, you know, feed energy into Los Angeles County. I think that shit's fire. Okay? I love that. This, on the other hand, is gross. I love energy. I hate car-based infrastructure. Okay?
Uniqueness has brought benefits, but uniqueness has also created unique problems and bizarre, sometimes convoluted means of solving them. Take homelessness. This is a hot-button, highly visible issue with complicated causes and largely theoretical solutions, so it's easy for conversations over it to spiral out of scale. A quick look at the statistics, however, makes one thing unmistakably clear. California's homelessness problem is uniquely bad. Of the 582,462 people experiencing homelessness nationwide in 2022, 171,521 were in California. That's nearly 30% of the nation's total, or for comparison, some 97,000 more than New York and some 150,000 more than Florida, the states with the second and third largest homeless populations. But California is the most populous state in the nation, so this should be considered at a per resident rate. And here too, California outpaces the rest with 44 people experiencing homelessness per 10,000. More troubling still,
Look at all those fucking blue states, by the way. Just saying.
With 44 people experiencing homelessness per 10,000. More troubling still, despite the highest total and the highest rate, the problem's only getting worse.
Yeah, look, dude, why do you think Hawaii or New York has such high rates of homelessness? Please. I can't speak for Vermont. I can speak for Oregon. I can speak for Hawaii. I can speak for New York. I can speak for California. Okay? Well, one, because they don't fucking melt them or put them in buses. Well, California used to literally put them in fucking planes and I think send them to Hawaii back when it wasn't blue, back when it was red. But part of the reason is because, no, it's not welfare programs, man. It's because rent's too damn high. That's it. That's the whole point. The fuck do you mean? Hawaii. What do you think is going on in Hawaii? Why is there so many fucking homeless people in Hawaii? At least in Hawaii, it makes kind of sense. Because it's like, you know, Hawaii kind of makes sense because there's limited amount of land. Texas buses ungodly amounts of homeless. Yeah, look at this. Median rent. Hawaii, DC, California, Maryland, New Jersey. Part of the reason why New Jersey is so high, but it's not as bad with homelessness, I think, is because I assume there's like so much mass availability. New Jersey is fucking slammed. It's dense. I grew up in Hawaii. I remember when California was buying homeless people one-way tickets to Hawaii. Yeah. Hasan implying that mainly USA has infinite land. Bitch, in comparison to Hawaii, it does. What do you mean? The United States of America if it had the same like building density of fucking, what is it, New York? If New York's same density, like New York City, same density existed in the state of Texas, we could put like the entire planet in the state of Texas. Like literally. We could put the entire planet and house it inside of the state of Texas if it had the same density of New York City. The entire planet. Okay? Can't believe I'm using a fucking Matt Iglesias take there, but it's true. I'm just trying to help you understand how fucking insanely vast, how much land we have, how much land mass we have. Vermont rates of homelessness are almost the worst in the country. Vermont shelters 98% of its homelessness, highest rate in the country. That's crazy. The state's housing crisis is the top agenda in Montpelier, and self-evident to most renters, employers, and first-time homebuyers, to say nothing nearly the 3,000 Vermonters currently sheltering in motels thanks to the pandemic. Vermont is the second highest per capita homelessness in the country, behind only California. Based on a nationwide tally, 43.1 out of every 10,000 Vermonters are unhoused. But Vermont is the lowest. Holy fuck. Jesus Christ. Well, this makes a lot of sense. This makes a lot of sense as to why you see homelessness way more in certain places and not in others, I guess. Holy shit, Hasanabi is right. Texas could fit 7 billion people with the population density of New York City. Bitch, I'm always right. Sometimes even when I'm using wrong people who are wrong all the time and the one right take that they have. I 100% guarantee you their high rate is just because they're good at counting them all, because they shelter them all. It's probably not that high. Bernie Sanders not trying to help the homeless. Sob emoji. This guy's a fake socialist. Marxist turning in his grave. We should make all the homeless take a mandatory Forex trading course to make them generate enough income to afford rent. Ah! It's not hard to afford rent. These people have a money-making problem. I have a PhD, so I know what I'm talking about. Okay, this is the funniest gray name I've ever encountered. Just nutted. Feels nice. Karl Marx Sussy Baka. You said www.fortnite.com. Do you think the building structures of California is the think stopping me from picking up women? Wait, what? I wouldn't want poor people living near me. I think the current housing situation in California is kind of nice. Walking is for nerds. I like my nice big American car. This is okay. Now I know this motherfucker's not from California. Yeah, this person is funny as fuck. Good shit. Yeah, you did get noticed because you're funny. Unlike all the motherfuckers in the chat that are unbearable all the fucking time. Okay, you were actually funny. Don't encourage them. No, I am encouraging them. Because they're not like they're not trying to be funny by being like racist or whatever. They're like actually funny. Karl Marx Sussy Baka. Okay.
People experiencing homelessness per 10,000. More troubling still, despite the highest total and the highest rate, the problem's only getting worse. From 2020 to 2022, while 23 states saw decreases in their homeless populations, California's rose by another 6%, 10,000 people. So it's a big, bad, and worsening problem, and while it's at the top of meeting agendas from small city halls all the way to Sacramento, it doesn't look like it'll be fixed anytime soon. While no state has figured out how to solve homelessness, it is generally understood that providing stable shelters and housing programs is associated with lowering numbers. It tracks then that California has comparatively little in the way of shelter beds, as the state has instead opted to prioritize permanent housing projects, which have proved expensive and incredibly slow to build.
That's insane. Oh, come on, dude. Like, no, it's because they're stopping this dead in its fucking tracks. What? Yeah. In California, the real problem with homelessness is that we don't have shelters, and instead we want to give homeless people homes. That's what we want to do. Meanwhile, I like Wendover Productions, but I think this is a massive miss. Here's why. On top of everything else, well, one, a lot of these housing projects, or a lot of the money that people put aside for potentially building new housing, specifically for low-income housing, there is, what was I going to say? Aside from all the money that they cast aside for housing development that they never actually end up using, real estate developers and homeowners are incredibly powerful in this fucking neoliberal shithole, okay? And on top of that, fuck it, I'm forgetting everything I was going to say. Jesus Christ, my brain is shutting off. I don't know what's wrong with me.
This has left more and more out in the relative cold. In 2022, 2/3 of California's homeless were considered unsheltered, living out of tents, cars, campers, or on the streets, far from shelters and services that could potentially turn things around. Now, the state government has watched this problem grow and spread and tried to think of solutions while throwing millions upon millions of dollars at it. Yet, the state has the largest, most visible homeless problem in the nation and has little in the way of solutions or even stopgaps in place to alleviate the issue. Much of this is the function of a simple reality that the state government has suppressed.
Fuck, before I forget. Oh, Jesus Christ. Duh. California has vacant homes. There are so many vacant plots and vacant homes. Just go on fucking Zillow and literally look at how many $3 million plus fucking empty lots currently exist. It's insane. Okay? There are so many fucking vacant homes in this so many vacant apartments in this goddamn fucking state. It's mind-boggling to me. And before every stupid fucking nerd says like, oh my God, what? What do you mean? You mean to tell me that real estate developers want to fucking develop housing and like keep it empty? That's so dumb. They're just seeking profits. Why wouldn't they want to fill those fucking homes? They can't. They can't. Okay? They can't at the price points that they're currently trying to, at the price points that they're currently trying to fucking sell them off at or rent them out at. Okay? So ultimately, given the way that our tax structure works, go buy another $3 million mansion before the homeless this time. Okay, shut up. Listen to me. Listen. The way that our tax structure works in the United States of America, it actually benefits real estate developers to keep some of these homes fucking empty as depreciating assets so they can use it as a tax write-off. That's it. That's the whole point. It completely, every fucking YIMBY, which, some people will call me one too because I am in favor of more development, but every fucking person that, and I've seen those tweets where people are like, you mean to tell me that real estate developers don't want to fucking fill their empty homes? Like, that's so stupid. They want to make profits. No, brother. they can use it as a fucking depreciating asset, write off their losses, and literally end up making more money as the value of the fucking property or even the lot itself appreciates. Instead of renting out all of their units, or instead of making sure that all the assets that they own are worked in some way, it's rented out, or people are able to fucking live inside of them. They can just sit there and be like, well, this is a depreciating asset. This is, this is a loss for me. As they wait, as the value of the home rises until they can sell it, as the value of the apartments rises and they can sell it. Property values always go up. And during that process, the government has made it so easy for them to sit there and eat the cost, because they can basically turn that loss into a tax benefit. There's no other avenue where you can do this. There's no other avenue where you can do this in you can't do that in your regular W-2 job. You know what I mean? Put a fucking vacancy tax on that shit that is more costly than the tax benefits that you might actually get from it. And let's see how empty those houses stay. Okay?
Surprisingly little control over. It's really hard to build in California. The difficulty in finding housing extends to everyone here. The state is in the middle of a housing crisis. But this isn't because of a faltering economy or meager wages. California, year in, year out, ranks as one of the highest average income states in the nation.
It goes over just taxing empty homes and commercial real estate transactions too. San Francisco has passed taxes for this, but due to existing laws, the ability for those funds to actually be allocated to their intended destination, affordable and social housing, is largely up to more conservative mayors and not actually what the people want or voted for. That is the other side of what I was talking about, which is that there is so much money in this fucking stupid state. So much. What do we have, like a $80 billion surplus? I think it was like 50 by like more conservative estimates. I don't know. Okay. And we constantly are like, oh, well, here, let's add a new tax. Okay. Let's add up, $5 million mansion purchase tax. I voted for that. You know what I mean? Here, we'll develop a fund with that extra, 10% taxes through the sale and purchase of a, $5 million plus property. We'll be able to develop some social housing. And it's like, it never works that way. We don't actually ever end up, spending that money. Concepts like Project Room Key, which are supposed to take empty fucking vacant hotels and shit and turn them into permanent housing for homeless people, are profoundly successful housing first anti-homeless policies that every single part of the Chamber of Commerce universally disagrees with.
And yet, in one analysis of 2019 numbers, once adjusted for cost of living, it plummets to 48th. Rather than unemployment or low-paying,
I want to run this back, sorry.
The state has surprisingly little control over. It's really hard to build in California. The difficulty in finding housing extends to everyone here. The state is in the middle of a housing crisis. But this isn't because of a faltering economy or meager wages. California, year in, year out, ranks as one of the highest average income states in the nation, and yet, in one analysis of 2019 numbers, once adjusted for cost of living, it plummets to 48th. Rather than unemployment or low-paying jobs, it's the sky-high cost of living that puts so many so perilously close to losing a home. All it could take is one medical emergency. Bizarrely, the explanation could be that the state's economy is too strong for its own good. Take this simple metric, the jobs housing ratio, which considers how many jobs are created in relation to how many units of housing are added to a given area. For local employment to remain healthy without adding to congestion, traffic, or displacing longtime residents, the US EPA considers a ratio ranging from 0.75 to 1.5 as healthy for an urban area. In the last decade, popular cities clearly on the rise have begun to push the upper reaches of this range. Phoenix's metro area sits at 1.34, Seattle's 1.43, Austin's 1.47, and Denver's 1.73, but California has blown the roof off this range. The LA Long Beach Anaheim metro topped 2, Riverside San Bernardino Ontario has reached 2.72, and the San Jose Sunnyvale Santa Clara ratio of new jobs per unit of housing hit a truly staggering 3.19. Of course, an unrelenting economy only accounts for the numerator here, the jobs. The denominator is just as responsible for the state's housing crisis, but this is the outcome of a concept a bit more nebulous: the California dream. Of all the floating, intangible assumptions as to what life in California is supposed to look like, the long sunny days and pleasant temperatures, along with a plethora of good jobs, beaches, and open space, it's the single-family home.
Solving the conflict between decommodifying homes and still financially incentivizing building new developments for low-income households, a bitch not gonna lie. Is it? Because literally what you're talking about, this part doesn't need to really exist all that much if it's handled by the state. Because this part, building new developments for low-income households, would quite literally work to do this, decommodifying homes. You're just basically not looking at it from the perspective outside of capitalism. That's it. Housing should not be seen as a commodity. It should be seen as a need, because it is a need. Without a house, without shelter, you fucking die. I did not see the new shootings in Denver. That's the issue. We can absolutely, and we must absolutely decommodify housing. And the best way to do that is state intervention. And places where there are less glaringly obvious issues, like homelessness, as it is in California, where it's like unimaginably bad, they have done that. We have the ability to literally fix all that. It's just that we don't have the willpower. This goes for every single issue we are trying to solve within capitalism. Yeah. Terrible.
With a lawn and perhaps a pool that's proved the most important, the most concrete, and currently the most controversial. And it's this core tenet that's causing such massive problems. Californians, after all, desperately want to keep what they were sold on, and they're willing to fight for it.
No, I don't think it's like that. I don't think it's like the fucking American dream. No, I think the American dream was a way to package home ownership for Americans, which then very quickly turned into the American dream of like making money off of real estate. Like every single tax incentive or every single benefit given to fucking home buyers has been bastardized by people that maintain and purchase housing not as for personal need, as shelter, but for profit-seeking measures, for renting and developing specifically so they can make more money off of it. Just like student loans, sure, exactly. Every single amenity that the United States government offers to the American people inevitably gets bastardized as a money-making operation, even if the intentions originally are honest. It's so stupid. AB 309, the Social Housing Act is in committee. Alex Lee is looking for votes, but the Chamber of Commerce is a bitch. New York had a great idea to get rid of the homelessness. Accept pain, no pain, top of the... Bro, this literally doesn't make sense even. Like, at least make it make sense, chatter. God damn it. I had such a good segue coming for this top of the hour ad break too. You fucked me. You fucked me. You fucking rolled me. You fucked me. It's messed up. What you did is messed up. It's Dadaist. Anyway, yeah, people are giving a 9 out of 11 on this top of the hour ad break. I see. Anyway, here's the 3-minute ad break. Now, if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free. Or you can get gifted a sub. Here's the 3-minute ad break. You know, Reagan started the loan tuition system also because there was a hotbed of communist and anti-war activity propping up on college campuses in California. Do you think that making it illegal to own more than a personal home and outlawing landlords completely would help solve the issue in our current state? First of all, that would never happen. So it is such an unimaginable thing that, yeah, like I said, I can't even imagine a world that would happen. No shot. You would literally have a fascist, like homeowners association revolution in this country. Not a revolution, but like a rebellion, a counter revolution. You kidding me? Remember the McCloskeys, like the fucking wife and husband, the lawyers with the AR-15s? Like every suburb would look like that. Filled to the brim with like the McCloskey style suburban counter revolutionaries armed to the fucking gills. Every convo about Cali is always the bottom half. No one cares about the top half. What do you mean? I mean, you mean like everything from the top half all the way up until the 1% is what you're talking about, I suspect. And in that regard, you're right. Oh, you mean just like the fucking Southern California and not the top of California, like Northern California. If you're saying that, then that's stupid because we are literally talking about NorCal when we talk about housing and homelessness.
Atherton, a small Silicon Valley town just minutes away from Stanford. In 2022,
this video literally heavily focuses on NorCal.
To keep up with state mandates on housing requirements, the city council began the process of rezoning one single-family lot to build an apartment building. The project was quickly axed. It wasn't a lack of money.
Wait, what happened?
Away from Stanford. In 2022, to keep up with state mandates on housing requirements, the city council began the process of rezoning one single-family lot to build an apartment building. The project was quickly axed. It wasn't a lack of money or a lack of municipal will. It was axed because the city's most influential, powerful executives and even basketball player Steph Curry banded together and pressured the city out of it.
What?
To them, the project would hurt their property values, cut off their views, change the character of the community, and create more traffic. So the project and its 16 units of desperately needed housing died on the vine and forced city planners back to the drawing board.
LeBron would never do that. LeBron would build an apartment.
High profile.
LeBron would literally build low-income housing with his bare hands, dude. Straight up. I said it. LeBron better. It's true. You know it's true. You fucking know it's true, dude. You know it's true.
As those in Atherton, this happens all the time, all over the state. Here, the city government decided to designate itself as a...
I didn't hear any lies in that statement. What, like about apartment complexes like lowering the character of the community? It's fucking bullshit. And before everyone... Oh, yeah, hell yeah. By the way, before anyone says like, Hasan, you live in a fucking single family home or whatever. Yeah, bitch, I do. And guess what? I have no issue with fucking apartments all around me, okay? Suck my dick. West Hollywood has mixed zoning. So there's plenty of fucking apartments, even though they are not relatively affordable. Let's be fucking real. So unless you tell me to knock my house down and like build an apartment complex and then what do you call it? Fucking become a landlord. Shut the fuck up. Expensive mid-ass apartments. Oh, it's so bad. It's so fucking bad. They're literally dog shit like 1935 developments that they haven't improved at all because they can get away with it. It's so nasty with it. And yes, you have to pay fucking at least like $2,000 plus to live in a goddamn studio that hasn't been improved since 1937. In my city, it's more units means more traffic. There's no fucking traffic in the city except for like the 4th of July. But that's how they stop every development.
Mountain lion sanctuary, which was odd, but conveniently allowed it to forego new housing development. Here, in 2019, construction on a 154-bed shelter broke ground only for Venice Beach to sue the city of Los Angeles to halt construction. Here, residents of San Francisco's Embarcadero area did the same, suing.
By the way, this is what okay, this part is true and very real. And yes, Wendover Productions is absolutely nailing it here. This is literally it. This is the main reason, okay? That's it. He's right. I'm glad that he got to this part. It's like we have vacant homes that we could be utilizing, sure, but that's only part of the problem because where are the vacant homes? How expensive are the vacant homes? How are you gonna utilize the vacant homes? These are all policy problems. Except on top of that issue, they literally don't even want you to build shelters, which is not even a fucking solution. It's a Band-Aid. And they don't even want you to build any apartments in general, which again is so stupid. And it's because wealthy people literally get together, band together, and like lose their fucking shit. They stop every kind of development dead in its goddamn tracks. So even if there's actual money that you could be spending, even if in a longer timeline, less homeless people in the street would be more beneficial for your real estate prices, okay, or your overall quality of existence, which ironically is not even the first reason why you should want homeless people to not live on the fucking streets, by the way. But even if you're a goddamn freakazoid who cannot comprehend that this human that's like literally shitting on the side of the road is a human being, okay, who once had dreams and wasn't so fucking brain broken from a lack of shelter for many, many years and traumatized through existing in that regard, okay? Even if you don't want to think about all that shit, that's the best and most effective and most permanent solution to the homelessness crisis. It's literally beneficial. It is beneficial. These things are beneficial for the rich people who constantly fucking complain about homelessness, but they want the other permanent solution, a final solution. That's what they want. That's the whole, that's what they would get if they had, if they could get away with it.
The city over establishing a 200-bed shelter in the same neighborhood. And across the larger Bay Area, those who want California to stay the same low-density California of old have created their own organizations, councils, and committees. Better Cupertino and Palo Alto for Sensible Zoning, to name a few. This isn't just a fringe. More and more, anti-density proponents are winning local elections. All of this is, after all, in the local interest. If one small town has enough power to push the problem over to the next, clearly a constituency will opt for that over something that could damage their property values. The state has the money and the interest in solving its problems with homelessness and housing shortages, but can only do so much when powerful local governments resist even the most minor of zoning changes and the smallest of housing projects. So, unexceptional problems have grown to exceptional size, and as the unexceptional solution of simply building more housing gets
Bro, collecting all of Ludwig's friends like loot? Wait, what? How? Is Doug friends with Ludwig? I feel like Ludwig just like steals from him.
Rejected, the state
fucking parasocial weirdo.
Legislator turns to the spectacular, launching projects to systematically convert motels into housing units, backing anti-NIMBY laws, and filing lawsuits against its own cities. And all of this absurd mess is confined to the issue of housing. There are, of course, fires. There's also too much water in some places and too little in others. There's spats about who deserves Colorado River water at the state level and at the local level. There's traffic, there's aging infrastructure, there's companies leaving the state and middle-class workers following them. There's a lot of bickering.
This part is a lie. I'm sorry. That's not true. No, that's crazy. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Like every single thing that he brought up, like all of these issues are literally in every other state. Okay? But the one aspect of it where he's saying like, oh, companies are leaving the state and middle class people are following those companies, he's not right. He's right. I live here. It's nuts. Bitch, where do you think I live? So it's a lie, or you don't agree? No, it's just not true. This is a falsehood. The majority of people that are leaving California are not middle class people, but like at the lowest rung, upper middle class people. It's rich people that are leaving California. A lot of rich people that leave California leave because they want to go to a tax haven, or if the middle class are actually leaving, they're leaving as a consequence of not having. It's not even a lack of like job opportunities or anything. They're leaving because they don't have places to live. They're priced out, and they have nowhere to go. Meanwhile, there's still a shitload of people moving into California while that's happening.
And middle-class workers following them. There's a lot of bickering and a lot to bicker about. Clearly, problems have accumulated in California to an untenable level, and systematically, they aren't getting solved. Something seems fundamentally wrong with the state, so maybe it needs a fundamental solution. Maybe California should just be a country. It sounds ludicrous, right? Of course California can't become a country. It would never happen. Congress would never allow it. But perhaps the point worth focusing on is how much less ludicrous it sounds when considering the argument. After all, California wouldn't be out of place as a country. It would rank 59th in physical size between Iraq and Paraguay, 38th in population between Canada and Poland, and 5th in GDP between Germany and India, so it would actually be above average on all major metrics.
Just understand that real quick. California ranks 5th in GDP. So math ain't mathin', dude. It's like the same as the egg prices we were talking about. 700% profit, increase in profit. Prices are increasing. Wages are the same. Their initial investment is the same. What's going on there?
Metrics of scale. One of the common refrains against secession movements is that breakaway regions could not survive economically on their own. For example, according to the UK government, for every dollar Scotland pays in taxes, it receives about $1.32 back. The country would have an immediate and dramatic budget deficit upon full independence. This fact undergirds some of the strongest hesitancies among Scots themselves on the matter.
Shit.
But California is different. In 2019, before the pandemic skewed the data, the state received just 97 cents back in federal spending for every dollar it sent the federal government. This put the state each year in a small camp of around 10 that received less than what they gave, while others, like Mississippi, Kentucky, and West Virginia, consistently received more than $2 back for every dollar they sent. Of course, this is by design. The US's progressive tax system is supposed to take disproportionately from the wealthy and give disproportionately to the less wealthy, but from California's perspective, many wonder why they're sending all their dollars to unappreciative states thousands of miles away. And adding to that, California doesn't even get as much of a say in how those dollars get spent. Given the unequal distribution of electoral votes in presidential elections, every individual in Wyoming has the voting power of about 3.7 Californians, while the Senate system of 2 senators per state, regardless of population, further compounds this weak representation. Again, the system was purposely designed hundreds of years ago to amplify the voices of smaller states, but from California's perspective, they get the short end of that stick. Feeling underrepresented by Washington, California has long legislated less like a state and more like a nation, passing sweeping, powerful laws when it feels like the federal government can't or won't. For example, it's long had a ban on assault rifles, similar to the one that the Biden administration is attempting to pass. It's announced a ban on gas-powered vehicles by 2035, similar to other bans passed by countries. It's established its own immigration law, largely focused on educating detainees on their rights prior to handing them over to what the state might characterize as abusive federal authorities. It's even formed relationships with countries, having signed a joint environmental accord with New Zealand at COP26. In many ways, fixing perceived federal shortcomings has become a central focus of Californian politics, but unsurprisingly, this dynamic has spurred tensions with DC.
One good thing that California is doing, and I haven't like done too much reading into this, but I believe we are. Producing our own insulin soon, so there is that. But like again, and again, California has a lot of wrong, especially when you talk about housing. Like one of the worst. Holy shit! I mean, that's the major issue that needs to be dealt with. Passing AB 257 fast. Food labor bill was huge. I think the gas price gouging thing. Yeah, there's that too. I don't know. I think what the fuck? What are you doing? Why are you having this conversation with your friends and then sending it to me? Ultimately, the most important, the biggest issue in California is housing, and it's not doing anything to fucking fix it. And the main reason for why is because the people that stand to benefit the most from housing are the ones who, from the current state of housing, are the ones who have an outsized influence and power as it pertains to elections. It's rich people. If California literally fixed its homelessness problem and fixed its housing issue by building more affordable housing, public housing, socialized housing, okay, it would literally be the number one state. It'd be the number one country to live in and of itself. But of course, it's also one of the hardest issues to tackle.
When federal power sways towards the right. There certainly is not.
Actually, that's not true. Then also on top of that, not you suggesting more public housing? What do you mean more? Like, what do you mean more public housing? Where is the public housing in California? Where does it exist? You mean Section 8? Like where? Any. I didn't say more. I said any. Okay? That's number one. Number two, it doesn't end there. Obviously, one of the major problems in at least Los Angeles is also a lack of adequate public transit. The city is not walkable. That's a huge issue. Okay. This person also said California is better than your state. Just accept it. California is my state. I pay a shitload of taxes here, my friend. This is just me demanding a return on that. Zoning issues. I live here too. No, I don't think that that's the only issue. That's one component, certainly, but not the only component.
Not the political will for California secession right now, not even close. But if there was one big perceived encroachment on California's rights, a knockdown of their assault rifle ban or a nationwide abortion ban, one could imagine that political will accumulating quickly. But it's still a largely moot point because it would almost certainly be fixing a problem by creating a bigger problem. As much as California might be held back by sending dollars to Washington or sitting subject to its laws, the state is massively buoyed by its inclusion in the largest economy in the world. Removing itself from the US would have dire economic consequences that would surely outweigh any gain. Perhaps the closest equivalent is Brexit.
Then let them leave. Affordable housing has been around for decades and done nothing. I lived in low-income housing all my life. It just put me in areas where everyone was richer than me, and we still couldn't make ends meet. The issue is so much more complex than your solutions deal with. What? I don't even know what the fuck you're saying. Like, I actually don't understand. Are you saying poor people should just leave? It's not simple. It's so hard to deal with. You're oversimplifying. I'm oversimplifying. You literally said poor people should just leave California. And then told me about how you and your family benefited from low-income housing. You know what would have been worse than low-income housing? Your mom and dad being homeless, weirdo. What the fuck are you saying? What? Yes, I'm saying things will stabilize over time. What the fuck? Okay. First of all, that's not true. You want to know why pushing homeless people aside, like pushing them away, further and further away from Los Angeles, is not actually going to solve the homelessness problem? Because the number of homeless people keep growing. You want to know why? Because people are constantly getting priced out of the housing market. So if you don't tackle it on that side of the issue, there's no way to tackle it at all. Also, you said you were a poor person living with rich people and you hated it. So you think it's better off for people to just like leave? I don't understand. Who's going to do the jobs? Who's going to do the jobs? You think there isn't need for people who need who need to live in low income housing that will still do certain jobs that people will never pay more money for? They should. I'm a homeowner now. I've been on both ends. Yeah, I can see your survivorship bias fucking seeping through as you type on your fucking iPhone.
Much of the political will came from a belief that the European Union was taking the country's money and encroaching on its sovereignty, but now
That's the funniest, dude, that literally, it's giving what's his name? Starbucks CEO Sweaty. It's like, I lived on welfare, okay? I made it. So I think we don't need welfare no more. It's literally Howard Schultz ass shit. I lived and survived on social housing, or not even social housing, but like low income housing, which is why we should abolish it and push people away. Like, how do you not even see what you are fucking advocating for from your own personal experience? That's not at all what I'm saying. You just said poor people should just leave LA.
A few years on, with mounting issues on trade and travel, public opinion has shifted decisively towards regret. Most agree that removing the UK from the world's third largest economy was not the right move. Public opinion on Californian independence has never neared a majority, but there have been enough fringe movements seeking secession that the question has been included in legitimate political polling, reliably demonstrating surprising support for the idea. Between 14 and 32% of respondents were for Californian nationhood. In fact, in one poll run by a Stanford-affiliated think tank, the 18 to 29 demographic responded as 36%.
Bro, this is so funny. I mean, companies should spread out and allow poor people to continue to live there. Yeah, except let's say we don't fucking, let's say we don't improve the working conditions of like teachers, nurses, sanitation workers, delivery drivers. And let's say we don't do that because it doesn't seem like we're going to do that. And also on top of that, we have the same attitude that you just suggested, where if you're poor, you just fuck off and you go live somewhere else. Okay? I'm not even going to get into like the inhumanity of what you're suggesting. That like you deserve to leave if you don't have if you can't pay for it. Okay? So what happens? Like you built the corporations elsewhere, let's say, which they do already. It's called low-cost sites. They take advantage of many tax benefits. That's why they build places in states like Oklahoma. Okay, companies leave. So what's going to happen? Do you think there is no need for these services any longer? Like, I don't understand. Who's doing sanitation? Who's teaching your children? You know? Who's doing janitor duties at the hospital? This is before we even comprehend how expensive it is to fucking move with no help from the government at all. Like who's doing the jobs that keep everything going and moving? You know what I mean? Yeah, who's picking the vegetables and the fruits, honestly? Yeah, we should get the fucking Hollywood film executive to do it, actually. It'll work. Like, even it's funny because, like, it is unimaginably cruel to tell poor people just fucking move. You know what I mean? Just like uproot your life. We're never going to give you enough money to do that. Okay? But like, even if we were to do that, even if we just like sidestep that cruelty, the inhumanity of your suggestion, who's going to do the jobs? Stop saying I told poor people to move. I'm saying that all companies that threaten to leave just should. We shouldn't tie them. Wait, what? You're not talking about that. You literally just said you got to be better about actually sourcing evidence when you insist something is wrong. Stop just claiming. Find evidence. If you're going to call someone a liar, then find the evidence. I live in San Diego. Same issues here. Yeah, not everyone can just say they are fine with their houses devaluing. People are locked into 30-year loans. Yeah, I wonder what changed in your material realities that cause you to literally take the fucking reactionary, NIMBY-ass stance that you're fucking suggesting in the chat, going from a motherfucker who lived in affordable housing with your families to one who actually owns a home. You literally are describing exactly what I'm talking about with respect to homeowners in this fucking state. Okay? And this guy doesn't even rent. I suspect he doesn't rent out his house. He's not even a goddamn landlord. He's just a homeowner. Every single homeowner operates like this. They think their value, their home's value appreciating is profoundly important for them. They don't want their home value to depreciate. And there's truth to that because, they're on 30-year loans, right? Oh. Chowder said if corporations are going to threaten to leave, then let them leave, not poor people. Okay, but you do realize that one aspect of home ownership means not having a permanent growth strategy, a permanent appreciation strategy on home values, okay? And as a homeowner, he's saying that that's unacceptable, that shouldn't happen. So he's literally making sure that there isn't more affordable housing available. Note by the way that 55% of Californians own the home they live in. Makes it hard to make policy when a majority freaks out about home prices, which is why we never should have treated it as an investment in the first place. It's the poor people that get priced by keeping certain tech sectors here. Stop trying to make a ton of assumptions about me. I mean, you're already mentioning like what your interest is. You said that you don't want your home value devaluing. I have told you what needs to happen. And you think that we're fundamentally at odds here. We need to decommodify housing. It has to happen. I'm moving in 2 weeks and coming a renter. I don't care. What? It's not that I don't think it needs changing. It needs massive changes, but they're so complex. What are you saying? I know that they're complex. I mean, I get it. You simply them to be just build more houses? No, I didn't say that. I said low income housing is what needs to be built. And then you said, I lived in affordable housing and it's been around for decades and done nothing. I lived in low income housing my whole life. It just put me in areas where everyone was richer than me and we still couldn't make ends meet. The issue is so much more complex than your solutions. Yes. And when I said, what, you want fucking poor people to just leave? You said, yes, I'm saying things will stabilize over time. And then when you realize that you're like, coming across like a fucking vulture, okay? Then you turned around and said, okay, maybe I wasn't meaning that. I meant the companies should leave, okay? And you said stop saying I told poor people to move. Not that I don't think it needs changing. It needs massive changes, but they're so complex. You just keep saying they're complex now. Dude, 100% bought at the peak and is freaking out. Do corporations bring cheaper housing areas? Or am I mistaken on what you're saying? I'm confused. No, corporations will often implement low-cost sites. Like they'll go to places like Oklahoma where they get money from the government, money from the state government to build what is known as low-cost sites. And places like that, they can actually engage in profit-seeking measures like all of the other people that work in that site. They can pay way less wages because the cost of living is much cheaper. They do that already. They do that in Oklahoma, for example. Oklahoma is a good example of this. There are a lot of places in middle America where this already exists. Just that they still can't maintain people staying there. But even then, that doesn't solve the issue that I'm mentioning. There are millions of fucking people that live here. And they're living there are millions of people that live here. We can't tell them to fuck off and leave, okay? So what do we do?
Percent for and just 40% against, almost even, demonstrating that, while majority opinion is not nearly in support of the extreme, unprecedented measure of modern state secession, the perceived disconnect with Washington has pushed the idea up to surprising levels of legitimacy. We all know pragmatically that secession will never happen in anything close to this reality, but partition could. The underlying idea is the same, that California is big, underrepresented, overtaxed. The solution is just less extreme. Split it into smaller states. This has been proposed legitimately over 200 times, and the most recent concerted push was led by billionaire investor Tim Draper in 2018. He proposed splitting the state into 3 parts called Northern California, Southern California, and California, attempting to balance population, wealth, and politics somewhat evenly across the 3. The central argument was that the state government was out of touch with local governments given the huge difference in size between the two, and that the federal government was out of touch with the state government given the diluted representation. So the solution—
Yeah, the amount of fucking Republican districts that would come out of that is unimaginable, dude. They would fucking gerrymander the shit out of that so aggressively, and it would not be in a way that is beneficial at all to the Democratic Party. Holy fuck. Oh my God. More blue states? Hell no. I don't even think that it would end up becoming, I mean, it'd be 2 more blue states and 1 like massive red state. Actually, it's funny. They tried to gerrymander it, but if you look at the votes, it would have been all 6 Dem senators. I don't know. I think we forget how fucking red California land can be. You know what I mean?
Solution was to reduce the size of the state and also, given the 2 senators per state system, give more powerful federal representation to the population. The argument was persuasive enough to generate far more than 367,000 signatures necessary to put the question on the ballot, but before Election Day, it was struck down by the state Supreme Court on constitutional grounds. Even so, it probably wouldn't have passed. Polling showed its support between 13 and 17%, but even if the state did vote for it, it'd then be up to the federal government to approve such a split, and the federal government would almost certainly never approve a split. Democrats would balk at the fact that it would fracture a strongly Democratic state, Republicans would balk at the 4 additional left-leaning congresspeople it would send to DC, everyone would ask whether it'd be too dangerous a precedent to establish. So the big solutions aren't reasonable, and these small solutions aren't working. Perhaps the answer is that California is...
It's funny, like, people literally forget that California was a red state, dude. Like, California gave 2 major fucking Republican presidents. 2 of the worst. Well, one definitely, like, objectively one of the worst. Like, Nixon and Reagan both came from California. California gave us Reagan, man. I think people just forget that all the time. Like, crazy. California has been liberal for shorter than it has been Republican.
It's just too unique, because it definitely is unique. There is no state, region, or other national subdivision with a larger economy on Earth, and going...
Dude, that's awesome. There's a whole zone in SD now where they can build 100-unit apartment buildings. All we need to provide parking lots. What model for building generational wealth to suggest in place of decommodifying housing? What model for building generational wealth to suggest in place of decommodifying housing? You dodging my questions because it's uninteresting, my man? What the fuck? You dodging my questions because uninteresting, or you ain't got ideas, my man? What if I were to say I don't have an idea of building intergenerational wealth in place of like home ownership? Okay, what if I were to say that? Okay, what if I were to tell you I don't care, that I don't think that we should be relying on intergenerational wealth being built from home ownership and instead decommodify it so thoroughly that it doesn't even matter? That like a gigantic aspect of existence that makes it a necessity to build intergenerational wealth is the home ownership itself and how expensive it is. What if I were to tell you that? Or even if I don't have all the fucking answers. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think is happening in a country like fucking Austria? What do you think goes on there when in a city as densely packed as fucking Vienna, 65% of the homes are publicly owned? What happens there? You think there's no rich people in Austria? What do you think that people are just like suffering there dramatically? Do you think that it's more utilitarian to cut off that aspect of intergenerational wealth development and at the very least make sure that there are less homeless people? I don't know. That's a good idea, I think. Also, dodging your fucking questions, dumbass. As my mod already told you before timing you out, there's fucking 26,000 people in here. Why do you think I can like have a one-on-one conversation with you, even though I'm doing it now? What you're saying about intergenerational wealth this way, or generational wealth this way, is literally just the opposite version of what TikTok landlords say all the time. Just buy a home, forehead. The only way to fucking build generational wealth is buying a home, stupid. Like, okay, how do you do that? How does, out of the 26,185 people in this fucking chat right now, with some notable exceptions like Corey Lulu, who was chirping about home ownership earlier, how the fuck do the overwhelming majority of people in here do that without already having existing generational wealth? How are they going to do that? How would you do that without having generational wealth to begin with? Oof.
Going down the list, there aren't really even near equivalents. Texas is number 2, but it's run by small government conservatives, meaning state intervention on problems is limited. New York is number 3, but nearly all of its GDP is concentrated in one massive metro area, meaning its structure is far simpler. You then have England, but it acts as a nation within a nation, then Guangdong and Jiangsu, but China isn't a democratic state, then Florida, but it has a Texas-style small government bent, then Shandong and Xishan, also China, then Illinois, mostly one city, then Hanan, also China, then finally Pennsylvania.
Wait,
With
what?
its comparatively conservative, smaller government politics, it's not a great equivalent to California, but it's the closest so far considering its wealth is somewhat geographically distributed and its government is more open to intervention than in Florida or Texas.
Wait, why did he just fucking shit on government intervention by saying China is not comparable because it's not democratic? It's like, maybe it's the solution. I mean, look, I can't speak on Chinese real estate that much. Okay. But no, like government intervention is literally the solution to this problem. The only solution.
It's not a great equivalent to California, but it's the closest so far considering its wealth is somewhat geographically distributed and its government is more open to intervention than in Florida or Texas. So that's to say, California is not only unique to the rest of the US.
Bro, you said lol, like those Chinese ghost cities, lol. Brother, okay, Chinese ghost cities, right? Fine, got it. Do you want 90% or at least like 75% home ownership? Or 90% home ownership? Or do you not want that? Also, where are the fucking ghost cities now? I don't even know. Do they still exist? If you want to fucking see a ghost city, go look at Detroit, okay? I actually don't know. I'm asking. Like, look at this shit. China has a almost 90% home ownership rate. China's largest ghost city booms again thanks to education fever. Detroit is overplayed. They have a fucked up shit on half of the city. The rest is normal. I will not accept Detroit slander. Okay, Gary, Indiana. In America, there are literal ghost cities, and ghost in the sense that, like, not that it was like built and no one fucking frequented it, but ghost in the sense that like it was alive and then killed, and now the ghost haunts it. You know what I mean? Like real fucking ghost cities. Go to any Rust Belt town and you'll see the fucking ghosts, okay? Like actually. Meanwhile, you're talking about fucking China's ghost cities, dude.
It's unique to the world. Truly nobody is trying to manage such a big economy with anything less than nation status.
Not Christian
It
F.
has
Thank you for
unique
the 5
problems, it feels disconnected from the nation, it lacks the power of the nation, and yet it feels like it needs to act like a nation. This should sound familiar because in 1776, 13 North American colonies declared independence from Britain, citing their unique problems, feeling of disconnection, lack of nation-scale power, and an inkling that just being a nation was a way to fix it all. What happened next was America. And what happened after that was American exceptionalism. The belief that the US is fundamentally and dramatically unique. This is, in many ways, true. There just aren't places that mirror the US's scale, geography, and demographics, but this feeling undergirds perhaps the most fundamental feature of American politics. A belief that, as a unique place, the US needs unique solutions. There is a systematic rejection of solutions that have repeatedly worked in close cultural equivalence out of a belief that they're incompatible with either what makes America unique or the uniqueness itself. So that means that California is the exception to the exception. The state is exceptional. It is fundamentally different to the rest of the nation, and therefore an analogous idea of Californian exceptionalism permeates through Sacramento, undergirding a belief that they too require unique solutions. After all, California is supposed to be the land of economic opportunity, a destination free of persecution, an idyllic antithesis to the status quo. California is America's America. The exception to the exception is not the norm. It's something more than the exception. California is like the hyper-distilled version of America itself, developing for many of these same reasons as the nation itself, just a century or two on. It's no wonder that the state centered on rejecting norms from the country centered on rejecting norms might stray from the most obvious path. It's also no wonder that, in the same way America itself becomes the infatuation of international media, a source of political entertainment, so too does California to the US. At the end of the day, Californian politicians might just be terrible. The GOP talking points might be right, and the state might be the evidence that liberal politics are structurally flawed, but it's near impossible to sift through the political rhetoric and actually objectively analyze this. However, it's reasonably clear that Californian politicians, like American politicians, have a tougher job to do navigating a truly singular situation. Decisions are made without precedent, and then in retrospect, with precedent established, failures seem obvious. So the question of how to solve California's problems is more so the question of how to solve America's problems. Should it keep trying to find something new to fight exceptionalism with exceptionalism, or can unexceptional solutions work for unexceptional problems even when they happen in exceptional places? Last year, in a video about carbon offsets, we covered California's unique cap-and-trade program, which was supposed to be an elegant way to curb industrial emissions, but in practice propped up ineffective carbon offsets and illogical forest management practices.
I think Wendover and so many other people are very well-intentioned liberals that like recognize the issues, at least recognize some of the solutions, but then like ultimately let it fizzle out with like idealistic liberal jargon at the end of it. Like, that's it. I think that he's not, I don't know. We need Maoist land reform. That's all I ask Wendover. They're literally the reason why people hate the idea of bicoastal elites. I don't think so. What is Alan the Fisher saying? Some of the larger infographic YouTube channels always struggle with any large political issues because proposing any kind of meaningful change would actually involve them taking a side. The video then ends up being a nothing burger of nice looking graphics. I'm frustrated with this because so many people are convinced that these channels are making a great point when it's just 0 points or centrist thumb twiddling disguised in nice looking animations. Luckily, my graphics suck ass. First half of that video was decent talking about NIMBYs, but the second half was weird deflection talking about California being its own country rather than any meaningful policy changes. Yeah, like, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like, that's it. California is great in many respects, okay? When I look to what happened with the teachers union collaborative strike in like the UTLA collaboration with like all the other staff members that work in schools, right? And then I see how that strike ended, right? That's very California. When I see that, and then I see even a relatively shitty mayor of Los Angeles saying, "Hey, we're going to actually keep the, we're going to keep the zoo open on that day in an effort to have children go somewhere. We're going to make it free." I say, you know what? That's like a very marginal way in which California is better than a place like fucking Florida. Okay? It sounds silly, but like, yes, in comparison, it's much worse in other places. You know what I mean? It's marginally better. There's a lot of like weird things that California does that we just kind of take for granted or we don't even think about. And you know, it's a good thing overall. But there are glaringly obvious neoliberal problems that seem unshakable and impossible to fucking change. And it frustrates me endlessly to live in this goddamn beautiful state that is turned into a fucking hellhole because of profit-seeking vultures. Okay? And just like just seemingly unshakable neoliberal solutions that aren't real solutions at all to those same problems. I think you guys forget about the Northeast. No, I mean, I'm from the Northeast. What do you mean? Ultimately, you can't solve a problem caused by capitalism with more capitalism. That's just how it works. I mean, I guess you can make an argument to why an anti-capitalist, an inherently anti-capitalist thing such as government regulations or government intervention would be helpful in the long term, but that's long-term capitalist benefits, and capitalism dictates that you only think about the short term. What I mean by that is social democratic reforms are genuinely beneficial to national prosperity in the long run. Okay? Not like fucking, I keep saying Norway, but it's not like Norway doesn't have billionaires. They have more billionaires per capita than the United States of America. You know what I mean? But you don't want to even think about it like that. You don't even want to do that. Because in the short term, people might actually devalue their homes. And that's fucking outright unacceptable. You know what I mean? While I do think that social democracy is not the end all be all, even within the current system, we could make it better through reforms, and yet we refuse to do so because of never-ending profit seekers. You keep saying Norway because you don't really know what's going on here. Law, sincerely, a Norwegian. Any fucking Norwegian that says you don't know what's going on here, it's actually much worse than it is, doesn't understand how bad it is here in the United States of America despite being in here every fucking day of the week. Okay? I get it. None of these places are perfect. Or they're racist. No, I doubt this person is racist. I've been in... Folks in the chat saying you're CIA. Okay, Perlman King. No trolling right now.